Hello everybody, it's Foo here, and today Wimpod is viable. So I made a silly tweet on the Twitter basically saying if you want to be cool playing VGC, find the most random Pokemon that learns Aqua Jet and use it to activate Colossal, because Colossal is just so strong in doubles with its Gigantamax form and the Steam Engine ability. It's very, very good, and it can basically carry teams even if you use a really weird Pokemon next to it. As long as you can activate Colossal, you could do okay. And I kind of suggested Wimpod because it was like, it's kind of a bad Pokemon. It's got really, really low stats and the Wimpod ability, which switches it out if it takes too much damage, all of which makes it very hard to use. But once the tweet was tweeted, the team had to be made. So today I want to present to you the team that I made, and it's a really, really fun team. I had so much fun in some ranked battles with this, which I want to show you today. The team is built around synergy with Wimpod, so it's not the most viable team. It's really for the most Wimpod memes I could fit on one team, but it's pretty fun and it did some work. So I'll show you some battles so you can see how the team functions and then go into a bit more detail about how I built it. So in this first battle, my opponent has a relatively standard team there with a Registeel, which I have to watch out for. Colossal deals with Registeel quite well there. In fact, Colossal has a really good matchup apart from Landorus. So I definitely thought that Landorus would be coming, and I have things to try to deal with Landorus. So let's get into this battle and I'll show you how some of the ways that I try to deal with Landorus basically. So my opponent is going to lead off with their Registeel and the aforementioned Landorus, which is beautifully shiny. And I'm going to send out my Wimpod the Sleepy and my Vanillux. On this first turn, I wasn't exactly sure what the opponent would do. Sometimes they think that they could just like max Rockfall my Ice Cream because Landorus outspeeds Vanillux, and that's not ideal. So what I do instead is I go for a Protect with Vanillux. If they do that, I should hopefully survive and they can activate my Weak Armor ability. So next turn I can outspeed the Landorus and hopefully get some damage on it. But instead, they Swords Dance with the Landorus. I am able to get a Taunt off with my Wimpod though, which is great. Wimpod already doing work, it clicked a move and it prevented Registeel from going for some Iron Defenses, which is really good. And now I can activate my Vanillux, and what I've got is the Weak Armor, as I said before, which will allow me to outspeed the Landorus. But I also have the Absorb Bulb, which means that I get +1 special attack when hit by a water type move, and that allows me to one-shot this Landorus, regardless of if it had like an Assault Vest or anything. Obviously it didn't because it went for Swords Dance, but I would have been able to one-shot it. Unfortunately, it does go down to the Body Press, but now that the Landorus has gone, that was the main thing stopping my Colossal from doing the work that it's meant to do, and that is the whole point of this team. So now I can send in Colossal the Parched, that's going to have a nice drink from my Aqua Jet from Wimpod, and hopefully Wimpod can activate this as well. So Wimpod is really quite a linchpin in this battle, which is cool to see. Just about the Landorus plays though, the opponent played that really weirdly. I assumed that it would be like a Focus Sash Landorus, which is why they went for the Swords Dance on the first turn in the face of a Vanillux. But even then it was a bit weird because I could have like Dynamaxed and Max Hailstormed, but that wouldn't have been good because I had the Registeel. So yeah, a bit weird. Anyway, you see here the Aqua Jet combination. So I go for the Aqua Jet on the Dynamax Colossal, and I get the weakness policy and I get the Steam Engine, so I'm now faster than everything and I'm pretty darn powerful. They didn't Dynamax anything here. I Volcalith into the horse and the horse just drops as well, so I'm not really sure where their Sash was on this team. I was assuming maybe if it's not on the horse or the Landorus, it's probably on the Regieleki, which we haven't seen yet. Body Press comes out and it does do quite a lot of damage despite the Registeel not having any defense boosts, but I'm getting the the Coals damage on the Registeel now, which is pretty helpful. And as long as they can't go for Iron Defenses, that damage output isn't going to increase anything, so that's pretty good. And they show that their last is actually going to be a Moltres. This turn I go for a Max Flare into the Registeel, so I actually didn't target the Moltres. I wasn't too worried about it, especially because it can't do too much damage to Colossal, which is good. The Registeel was doing quite a lot of damage and yeah, it could be pretty annoying. But you see here I've got Struggle Bug, and I was assuming that my Wimpod would actually outspeed the Moltres because Wimpod is base 80 speed. That's a one good stat it has, base 80. If you go like Timid and base 80 speed, you can get pretty fast. And most Moltres, well, a lot of Moltres aren't running like positive speed, max speed. Usually they're running a bit of bulk, maybe modest nature. So a lot of the time, Wimpod will outspeed Moltres. And if you can get a -1 special attack on a Moltres, its damage output is so low. Right here, I'm really trying to play around a weakness policy. Volcalith might have KO'd there, but if it didn't, I would have activated the Berserk, and I would have activated the weakness policy, and you can see that this max darkness would probably have KO'd my Colossal. It would have been a really close damage roll with the Volcalith, because obviously Flare in the Sun is doing quite a lot of damage anyway, but it might have taken the Moltres out straight away. But I didn't want to risk it, because now what I can do instead is just go for the Struggle Bug, and with the Coals I can take that damage down quite a lot. In the back, I think I had a Gastrodon, so that could have definitely dealt with the Moltres. No, I had a Dusclops, that's it. I had a Dusclops. As long as the Moltres doesn't have any special attack boosts, Dusclops can take a hit and go for a Nightshade. But we are able to take out the Moltres for the win there, and Wimpod actually survived that battle, so don't get used to that sight. Wimpod usually faints very quickly. I got safety goggles on my Wimpod, just so that it can't be redirected by a Moongus or Volcarona that like to go for Rage Powder. That means I don't have the Focus Sash. Focus Sash isn't very helpful on Wimpod anyway, because if you get taken down to your Focus Sash, your Wimpout ability activates and you switch out. So it's not that helpful. You may as well just accept the feint. The item, the safety goggles item, is generally better. But anyway, yeah, that was a fun one. Wimpod putting in a ton of work there, preventing the Registeel from going for the Iron Defenses. Otherwise, its body presses would have done a ton more to Colossal. And also, you know, activating both Vanillux and Colossal, and just getting the Struggle Bug off in case I missed a Heat Wave, for example, at the end. If I missed that Heat Wave and they took out my Colossal, the Dusclops would have been able to take out the Moltres at the end. So that was all very important, and Wimpod already showing you what it does. So let's move on to some other ones where I can showcase a few other members of the team. In the next battle, my opponent has some more interesting Pokemon, especially the Blaziken, which is a Pokemon you don't see very much. The rest of the team is Agenda, which is pretty cool for Pride Month. But yeah, that Blaziken's interesting, and also the Dracovish I'm expecting, because Dracovish is a water type and Colossal hates water types generally, but that's why we have Gastrodon in this team. So let's see how this one pans out. My opponent is going to lead with Zapdos, the 100 times victorious, and Dracovish, and we are going to lead with Wimpod the Sleepy and Colossal the Parched, and Wimpod is going to not give the Parched Colossal a drink it needs, because this is not a good matchup for Colossal. I can't activate it right now because I'm facing a water type Pokemon that's very, very scary. The opponent is going to Dynamax, which could be an issue. I'm assuming that they're going to go for like an attack into Wimpod though, because it's Zapdos that's Dynamaxing, and you know, both of its stabs are super effective, so they might just want to get like a +1. Or they might go for like an electric move into the Colossal slot, which I'm immune to anyway. So I go for the Aqua Jet and get a +1 special attack in my Gastrodon straight away. So Wimpod is able to not only activate Colossal's weakness policy or Vanilux's Absorb Bulb, it's also able to activate Gastrodon's Storm Drain. So it's got like ways to boost the power of 3 of my Pokemon, which I think is so cool. But the Dracovish also goes for the Fishious Rend, so I get to +2 special attack for only having to sacrifice my Wimpod. But we burned a ton of their Dynamax too. We're in a pretty good position here. We see the Choice Band on the Dracovish as well, which means they're locked into Fishious Rend, so they either have to keep giving me special attack boosts or switch out. And this is just so fantastic. So right now, I'm going to Dynamax my Gastrodon. We're in such a commanding position right now. As long as I can take a hit from the Zapdos, which I should be able to easily. Gastrodon has very good bulk. We're in a really, really good place right now. So we can see the goopy Gastrodon going really big, which is fantastic. The Zapdos is going to actually go for a max Airstream, which will do a significant amount of damage to Gastrodon, but it's not a 2-hit KO because Gastrodon eats hits for days. And they are going to get speed boosts. It's pretty irrelevant for their team. They're going to be way faster than my team right now. But I can go for the max Quake into the Spectria, giving me +1 special defense. And because I'm going for a Trick Room, I'll be able to get another +1 special defense before they attack me again the next turn. The Spectre isn't Focus Sash, so it just drops. And this is looking pretty fantastic because they haven't been able to prevent my Trick Room right now. So we can get that up, and I've got a +2 Gastrodon with 2 turns of Dynamax left. And I've got a +1 special defense on my Gastrodon and a +1 special defense on my Dusclops. So this is all looking very good. We've seen their choice banned Dracovish, but I mean, it can't go for Fishious Rend while the Gastrodon is on the field. And right here is when the opponent just forfeits. And that was a very satisfying forfeit because like the positioning was just so good. I mean, maybe they should have read into like the switch out into Gastrodon with their Dracovish, but since their only water type Pokemon was a choiced Pokemon, it made it very hard to deal with the Colossal. Because if I just went for the Colossal play turn 1 and they didn't click Fishious Rend, they didn't have much counterplay really if they clicked anything else. So yeah, that was an interesting one, and Gastrodon just showing you what it does in that one. In this next one, my opponent has some interesting stuff on there. Gyarados is there. You really don't see Gyarados much anymore, so it's cool to see it. And also the Goodra is there too, and a Cinderace. So these are all threats that you encounter them, but they're not super common. So this one was just really, really funny, and I wanted to show you it because I found it really, really funny to play. So my opponent is going to lead off with Whimsicott and Moltres, as I'm going to lead with my Wimpod, the Sleepy, and Colossal, the Parched. I just love those marks, they're so fun. And on this first turn, I'm gonna make a prediction that Whimsicott has got Switcheroo. If I didn't make that prediction and I went for my Colossal play, they would have Switcherooed me an eject button, and I would have ejected out my own Colossal with Aqua Jet. So luckily I make the call correct, and I'm able to avoid having Switcheroo on my Colossal. Right now you're going to see Wimp out. Very rare that you see that because usually Wimpod just faints to any attack. But in this situation we actually get to keep our Wimpod, which could be useful later on. But anyway, they're going to switch out their Whimsicott because they're taunted, and a taunted Whimsicott is no fun for anyone really. I'm now going to Dynamax my Colossal. I really want to get some Cole's damage going because that'll be really, really helpful for just chipping away at some of the opponent's team. So I'm going to Dynamax this. It might be slightly premature because they still have some threatening Pokemon out there, some Water-type Pokemon for example. But I do have Gastrodon in the back, so hopefully I can mitigate that. As I'm just going to go for an Icy Wind here to try to slow the opponent down. I'm thinking at -1 on the Moltres, I might be able to outspeed with my Colossal. I might be activating a Weakness Policy here, which wouldn't be very good. But Weakness Policy doesn't go off, and I do actually outspeed with my Colossal after 1 Icy Wind, so that was a nice bit of speed control to take down the Moltres before it gets another attack off. That was really, really cool. So yeah, I really like Vanillux. This Vanillux is definitely not the most reliable Vanillux set because it doesn't have the Hail, and Hail with like having the Aurora Veil and everything. It's a really cool Pokemon. I really like it. This one is just a gimmicky one, and it definitely could be something better on the team, but it's just fun. Anyway, we see the Whimsicott come in again and try to go for the Switcheroo again, but we're not falling for that. You've already revealed it this time. This doesn't even have to be a prediction. I can just go for another Icy Wind, get some really good damage on both of the opponent's Pokemon, and obviously they've missed their chance now. I've hit them with the eject button and they're going to switch out, which is very, very good. So that Whimsicott is gone again without doing anything, which I just find hilarious, as the Goodra goes for a Muddy Water, and that is going to, I'm going to protect myself from that. Unfortunately, that means I don't actually activate my in my Steam Engine and Weakness Policy and everything, because that would have actually been quite good for me. And I actually get the Absorb Bulb activation, which is good. The issue is that the Gyarados has just come in, and it could well be faster than me. Gyarados is just slightly faster than Vanillux in terms of base speed. So I'm going to switch out here, go into my Gastrodon. I really need to make this play mainly because I need to protect my Colossal. I can't have any Water-type moves going off and damaging my Colossal here. The Gyarados becomes a bit greedy. I'm thinking maybe this is a bit of a desperation play at this point because they haven't been able to stop Colossal. So maybe they were hoping that I would focus down the Goodra, having seen that it has a water type attack. But that's not necessary. I am going to just target the Gyarados. I do see it as the bigger threat, especially since Gyarados sometimes carries Power Whip, which can be a problem for Gastrodons. So I wanted to take that out before Gastrodon came in, because Gastrodon can do a lot of cleaning up here. I mean, even with Whimsicott, if Whimsicott has a grass-type move, it probably won't take me out, especially considering I do have the Rindo Berry. So that's all good. And finally, the Whimsicott comes in. Can it do anything before this match finishes? Because it's been really blocked. Not really. The battle is cancelled there. So I just found that one funny that like the Whimsicott just couldn't do what it wanted to do. Okay, this is the last replay I want to show you, and then I'll just go into a bit more detail on the team. So this one again is quite a standard team. It looks very similar to the first team that I showed you with the Registeel there, and with a Garchomp instead of a Landorus, both of which perform the role of being very threatening to Colossal. So that's interesting to see. Again, because I'm worried about the Garchomp, I'm going to try to use Vanillux again, and we can see how that goes. So in this one, my opponent's going to lead with Urshifu and the Garchomp, as I'm going to lead with Wimpod and Vanillux. This is such a risky lead, and a lot of the time it can lose you a lot of momentum, and it's just really, it's a very sacrificial lead, and if it doesn't pan out, it puts you very much in the back seat. So right now I'm just going to go for the activation on my Vanillux, and I'm going to go for an Icy Wind, just trying to get a good amount of damage on these Pokemon, and maybe also slowing them down could be helpful. But unfortunately the Garchomp does Protect. Now Protect or switching out is very common, and usually a play like this isn't advised. It's not the best way to use the Vanillux. Like a Choice Scarf Vanillux would be probably more reliable. Choice Scarf with Snow Warning, but it's just that I wanted to use the Wimpod to the most of its ability. Anyway, we get some damage on the Urshifu. A lot more damage than I expected, to be honest. That did quite a lot of damage since it was a spread resisted move. But on this turn, the Urshifu is going to switch out and go into the Registeel, and that's kind of fine with me. I'm going to Dynamax my Gastrodon here, and we don't see a Dynamax on the Garchomp, which is quite good, really. Dynamax Garchomp could be a really big problem for me. If it starts getting Max Quake special defense boosts, it could put me in a pretty bad position. So I get to Dynamax the Gastrodon, and I'm going to go straight for an Aqua Jet to give myself the Storm Drain boost, which is really nice for Gastrodon. After a +1, Gastrodon really has very nice damage output. Again, Garchomp going for a Swords Dance, maybe thinking that I'm like a bulkier, yawning Gastrodon or something like that, but no, I do have Ice Beam on this one. It's really important to have as much ice coverage as I can have to take on the Landorus and the Garchomp. This is a very offensive Gastrodon, so I can take down the Garchomp, probably the biggest threat to my team, which is really good because it claws back a bit of the lost momentum with the Vanillux going down so early without doing very much. We see that the Registeel has leftovers. It's very likely going to be an Iron Defense Registeel, but having the +1 special attack on Gastrodon, which has Max Quake to threaten it, that's pretty good, really. Now we're going to see a Dynamax on the opponent's team. I'm thinking that it's probably going to be Moltres, and that is what we see here. And I just want to get some Max Quake damage onto the Registeel here before it can snowball with Iron Defenses and such. So that's what I'm going to go for, Max Quake into the Registeel. I'm actually going to go for a Struggle Bug, because if I can reduce the Moltres damage output, then that would be really good. It really can't do very much damage if it doesn't have any special attack boosts. So if we're dropping its special attack, that's even better. Obviously, it's still able to take out Wimpod because it's a Wimpod and it doesn't have any bulk whatsoever. But that's okay. It gives us a free switch into something else. So Wimpod goes down there. We all shed a tear. And the Registeel actually goes for Amnesia, which sucks quite a bit, because obviously it's going to take my Max Quake really well now. Although, fortunately, I'm still doing just over half. Only just, though. It looks like it's really close whether another one will KO. It probably will KO after hail damage. But what's good in this situation is we've reduced Moltres' special attack by 1 stage, and we've boosted our special defense by 1 stage. So now Moltres won't be doing much damage at all, and I can really just ignore it and make sure that I get that KO on the Registeel before it just snowballs way out of control. Now the Moltres is going to go for a max airstream, and you can see that does pitiful damage against the Gastrodon. I've still got a ton of work to do though, because they've still got the Urshifu in the back, which really messes up my Colossal. Colossal is not looking great here. Although Registeel goes with a body press into it, that does activate my weakness policy, so now my Colossal's damage output is better. But still, I have to be really careful, because the Urshifu, though it's taking some damage, is still quite healthy and it's a very threatening Pokemon. I get another Max Quake off, which gives my Colossal a special defense boost as well as my Gastrodon. So again, like, the Moltres is not threatening us very much at all. It's -1 special attack, and both of my Pokemon have special defense boosts. So it's really just having to deal with this Urshifu. The issue is my Dynamax is now over, and the Moltres still has 1 turn, so that's a bit of an issue. And obviously the bigger issue is that there's a huge Urshifu on this field. So the Moltres is going to go for an Airstream into the Gastrodon just to get a little bit more chip damage, so that they can hopefully try to take me out with a close combat on their Urshifu. And I really didn't think that my Gastrodon would survive this, because it's taken a lot of chip damage already. But fortunately, Gastrodon does survive, which is so good. But I'm still not sure if I can take out this Urshifu. I go for a Heat Wave to try to get a little bit more chip damage on the Urshifu, because once the Urshifu's down, like, the Moltres we stand a much better chance to deal with. But I missed the Urshifu, but fortunately, because I'm +1 special attack from the Aqua Jet earlier, and because it's just dropped its special defense with the close combat, I am actually able to take out the Urshifu. We're still not out of the woods, because both of my Pokemon are severely damaged, and I really need to be able to take out this Moltres. So on this first turn, I'm going for a Protect with my Gastrodon to keep it around for as long as possible, because if the Moltres is going for Fiery Wrath, then it's spread damage, and as long as my Gastrodon is on the field, my Colossal will be taking less damage. So I just protect that. It turns out Moltres went for a Protect too, but it doesn't really make any difference. Now they're going for the Fiery Wrath. It does take out Gastrodon. Colossal doesn't take too much damage, but that's because that was spread damage and my Protect failed, which means that a single target would take me out next turn. But thankfully, I connect my Heat Wave because my weakness policy was activated earlier. I'm able to take down the Moltres, and that was such an intense battle. That was a really exciting one. So to break down the team a little bit more, this is the team, and it's pretty fun. The matches that I show you are really the matches which feature Wimpod the most, because that's why I built the team. And I showed you it activating Colossal. It also activates the Vanillux. I've made Vanillux a bit more offensive, and I've given it a Hyper Beam just in case I ever want to Dynamax it. It's definitely not the most optimal slot there. You could have something like a Togekiss could be useful there, or even just like an Aurora Veil, other ice type Pokemon, Ninetales would probably be better there. I just wanted to show off the Absorb Bulb because you never see that item being used. And then you also saw Gastrodon, which is a really important Pokemon. It's very good on Colossal teams anyway because of the Storm Drain, allowing you to protect the Colossal, but it's also great for dealing with those ground types too. So generally it's got very good synergy, and also you can activate its Storm Drain yourself to give it a special attack boost. So I really like Gastrodon on this team. The remaining members were a Dusclops, because you do have a Trick Room option, especially if you're going with a Gastrodon route, or even if you're going up against a fast team, you can actually Trick Room with the Colossal and go for a Bulldoze, and that allows you to activate your weakness policy, and Colossal still is pretty slow even when max invested in speed, so that's an interesting option. And also having burns is really good too. If you can burn a ground type Pokemon, then Dynamax Colossal can actually live some max quakes, so Will-O-Wisp is really helpful too. And then the last Pokemon is Rillaboom. Rillaboom I thought was useful because it can reduce earthquake damage with the grassy terrain. It threatens a lot of the water types that would threaten Colossal. Fake Out is just generally great support, and it's useful for helping get up Trick Room as well, and it's just a good Pokemon. I hope you enjoyed this video all about Wimpod. Please go out and build your own Wimpod teams and make the most of this monster. Let's make Wimpod viable. If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and dinging the bell. I don't have a regular upload schedule, so if you don't want to miss one of my videos, definitely ding the bell. Follow me over on Twitter at SJA900. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.